What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have quite a bit to discuss with you right here, as we have Hurricane Gabrielle quickly intensifying as it's moving east of Bermuda, but we are also looking at two other areas of interest that could be impacting land here in the next few days, so we're going to want to talk about that as well. So we have a lot to cover, so we're going to go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, and dive right into it right here. So starting off, we'll go ahead and give you the latest and greatest on Hurricane Gabrielle that has been quickly intensifying over this weekend. Here's where we're at right here. This is now a high-end Category 1 hurricane with winds of 90 miles per hour, minimum central pressure of 978 millibars, and present movement is north-northwest at 10 miles per hour. So it's moving at a pretty kind of a sluggish speed at this current point in time. Right here, it is also a relatively small system in terms of its hurricane force wind field, with hurricane force winds only extending outward 25 miles from the center and tropical storm force winds extending outward 140 miles from the center. So we're definitely going to want to pay attention to that moving forward. But we'll go ahead now and go to the discussion and kind of give you an idea of what may be happening in the next couple of days. So here's what we got for you right here. Satellite images show that deep convection wraps around the inner core of Gabrielle with cloud tops near minus 80 degrees Celsius, and GLM data depicts some lightning ongoing near the center of the system. Just a quick side note, we're going to go ahead and quickly go over this very quickly. When you're seeing cloud tops that cold in this part of the Atlantic, that's an indicator of just how much this is intensified, how well organized this is actually getting, and how quickly this could get its act together, and how quickly things could continue to escalate. Also, we're seeing lightning going on near the center of the system. One thing you need to know, for those of you tuning in that aren't maybe so familiar with the tropics, is hurricanes do not typically produce lightning unless they are rapidly intensifying. And the fact that we're seeing lightning in the eyewall of Gabrielle based on this data right here is quite the interesting feat to talk about for sure. Because what that tells me is, number one, the system is still organizing at a pretty fast pace, and number two, the system either is or is about to rapidly intensify in the next 24 hours. So that is something that you're going to want to keep in mind and consider down the line. Unfortunately, there has been no microwave images this morning to get a better idea of the hurricane structure. Okay. However, there is been a brief hint that an eye may be trying to form in infrared imagery. We've definitely seen that. There is a fairly large range in subjective and objective satellite estimates. Latest Dvorak goes from 77 to 90 knots, and estimates from the UW SIMS go from 57 to 79 knots. Using these estimates and improved satellite presentation, the intensity is raised to 80 knots because of that right here. The hurricane is within a favorable environment for strengthening, and over the next 24 hours or so, with warm sea surface temperatures and light to moderate wind shear, the NHC intensity forecast lies near the higher end of the guidance envelope, near the hurricane regional models, with Gabrielle forecast to become a major hurricane tonight. After this time, moderate to strong westerly wind shear will begin to impact the system, as well as slightly drier mid-level air. By day 3, sea surface temperatures dropped to around 26 degrees centigrade or Celsius, which is about 79 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you living in the United States, and will continue to cool along the forecast track. Thus, a weakening trend is forecast beyond 24 hours, and the NHC forecast trends towards a consensus aids through the middle and the end of the forecast period. Global models are slightly in better in agreement with it becoming an extratropical cyclone by the end of the period, and that's what we're dealing with right here. 120 miles per hour in the next 24 hours at the time of this advisory. There are likely going to be some changes by the time you do see this video. This may be a little bit stronger by the time you guys see this, but still, that's what we're dealing with at this current point in time. And as we go ahead and show you the cone with this right here, you're looking at this still being a little bit top heavy on the eastern side based on the latest cone right here, but you are looking at a major hurricane at least by tonight going forward. You're by 2 a.m. Tonight, which is 1 a.m. Central Time. You're looking at 120 miles per hour as it starts to make that turn towards the east, and you are looking at a hurricane potentially impacting the Azores Islands over here, as we've noticed the shift of the track shifting further and further and further and further to the south. So you're definitely going to want to consider that as well. We're definitely going to want to pay attention to this if you are in the Azores Islands, especially. And we will keep you updated on all those things here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But we have two other areas of interest that we need to go ahead and talk about as well, because the season's continuing to get busier and busier based on what we're seeing at this current point in time. And we have this area of interest over here, and we have this area of interest over here. We're going to go ahead and start with the easternmost one, since this has a 60% chance of formation, and there are a few interesting tidbits that I do want to go ahead and go over. A tropical wave in the eastern tropical Atlantic is producing limited showers and thunderstorms well to the west-southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. Although dry air should prevent any significant development over the next day or two, environmental conditions should gradually become more favorable for development thereafter, and a tropical depression could form by the middle to latter portions of this week, while the system moves west-northwestward to northwestward across the central Atlantic, 10% in the next 48 hours, 60% in the next 7 days. So that is a factor that you are definitely going to want to consider moving forward. And there is also this area of interest right here that we'll go ahead and go over now. A tropical wave located well to the east of the Lesser Antilles is producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions appear marginally conducive for slow development over the next several days as the wave moves quickly westward to west-northwestward at 15 to 20 miles per hour. By the later part of this week, this system is expected to slow down and turn more northwestward to the north of Hispaniola. Regardless of development, gusty winds and showers are expected for portions of the Leeward Islands late tonight and Tuesday. 10% in the next 48 hours, 30% in the next 7 days. So that's something you are definitely going to want to keep in mind, especially this western one, as this heads towards the Antilles and Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic and even the Bahamas that is in the cone. So we're definitely looking at more land-based threats right here that you're going to want to pay attention to. And as we get more into it and as we talk more about this right here, those are things you're definitely going to want to consider moving forward. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and shift over to satellite imagery. So we're going to go ahead and go to the DAPIA website, and we're going to go ahead and talk about Gabrielle right here. And we're mainly going to use DAPIA because this does give us minute-to-minute observations and data right here. Okay, it's not really giving us this right now. Hopefully we can pull this up, get this, and image loop that. There we go. Seizure warning, by the way, to those prone to flashing lights. I do apologize for that very quickly, but let's go ahead and do this, a little bit of that. There we go. So here's what we got for you right here. Definitely producing a lot of convection right here. Definitely considerably more organized than what we've seen previously. And you're definitely starting to see that eye trying to pop out over here near the center of circulation. You're definitely seeing those cooler cloud tops starting to emerge over here as well. This is really starting to ramp up in intensity as well as I'm noticing. You're definitely noticing that outflow boundary, that really getting caught into that jet right there, really helping enhance it going forward. And you're definitely starting to see the system pay dividends as more that those cloud tops start to warm up in Gabrielle with that eye. And what that indicates to me is two things. Number one, it indicates a stronger system. And number two, it indicates a more organized system, as you're noticing right here. And that's definitely something you're going to want to pay attention to and consider moving forward. Definitely looking at the organization of this. This is still has about a day or so of really good conditions as it moves east of Bermuda tonight. And then after that, things will start to kind of decrease in terms of the quality of conditions. And then the system is expected to start weakening and then head towards the Azores Islands. So that's definitely something you're going to want to pay attention to moving forward. But ultimately, you're looking at a really good setup with this, and you're definitely going to want to watch this. I'm going to go ahead and look at true color imagery just to see what's going on. And yeah, you can even see in true color imagery how kind of what's going on and how this is popping out right here. This is, again, going to probably take a second, but seizure warning to those prone to flashing lights. I do apologize for that. It's going to get us quickly loaded for you right here. But ultimately, I just want to take a quick look at the visible satellite just to kind of see, A, what it looks like right now, and B, how this could potentially improve as the day goes on. So looking at this right here, let's go ahead and pull this up right here. But yeah, this is what we got for you right here. Kind of that's true color imagery, definitely really showing signs of organization, especially now. And you're definitely going to want to watch that, especially as you go into this morning. Right here. So that's something to keep in mind, right? Actually, no, this is from yesterday's right here. So what is, so I do apologize. That was a mess up on my part, but let's see if we can do visible. Not quite yet. We'll definitely have to watch out for that, though, moving forward. But ultimately, that's what you have going on with Gabrielle. What's going on in the central tropical Atlantic? Let's go ahead and pull that up for you guys. This is what we got. So ultimately, these do kind of still remain disorganized. Both of these waves remain disorganized right here, but they are fairly close to each other at this current point in time. And I am a little interested to see what will happen going forward, because if you have this wave and this wave being close to together, and they both start developing around the same time, they're actually close enough to perform something that is known as the Fujiwara effect. For those of you who do not know what the Fujiwara effect is, for the lack of better terms, it's basically when two storms kind of do a little dance. One of and they start to rotate around each other, and if one of them is stronger than the other, the weaker system will get absorbed into the stronger system. And that's the general gist of it. So ultimately, that's kind of what we're looking at right here. This system over here is expected to move further to the west at 15 miles per hour. This one around 10 or so. So if it can get that distance and kind of pull towards further towards the west, towards Hispaniola, before this system starts to get its act together, I would say, and after the middle portion of this week, then you could have a scenario where ultimately this could be far enough to develop and not really be affected too much by this area of interest right there. But if you do see this starting to develop more quickly, you could definitely see this system kind of get absorbed into that one. And that's definitely something you're going to want to watch out for down the line. But ultimately, these storms remain relatively disorganized. More of this popcorn convection, as we talk about right here, basically convection that starts firing off for a few hours and then starting to cool off after diurnal maximum. So that's something that you're going to want to consider moving on right here. This is going to take some time, but let's go ahead and actually do a quick favor and look at the water vapor imagery. Yeah, there definitely is some dry air kind of potentially going to inhibit the second system. The first system is kind of in a bit of moisture right here, kind of helped by the outflow of Gabrielle. The main thing I'm concerned about the first system is more so the wind shear, both generated by this upper level low right here and by Gabrielle as well. So that's kind of why the NHC is going at 30% for development. If this system over here does want to develop, it's going to want to do it, I would say, probably further to the west towards the Bahamas, and after it moves past Hispaniola. So you're definitely going to want to watch that, especially as the shear starts to weaken, because where it's at right now isn't the most favorable environment for development, mainly because the shear, dry air entrainment is possible as well. So you're definitely going to want to keep that in mind. The second system, though, is a bit further away and further away from those bad conditions as well. As long as it gets out of that dry air and kind of battles through that, you're going to have a scenario where ultimately this system could actually develop pretty quickly, given the conditions it has ahead of it. And that's definitely something we're going to want to watch, because even a couple of days ago, when I was looking at this, when I recorded my last video, we weren't even looking at this as a potential area of interest. It's just kind of popped onto everyone's radar right here over the last couple of days. So that's definitely something you're going to want to keep in mind as well. So that's your satellite imagery for you guys. Very briefly, here's the track models and the intensity in terms of Gabrielle. Track models, not really too much to say. Going to be heading towards Europe, actually, as an extratropical cyclone. If you're in the Azores, you're going to want to watch out for it. Intensity runs favored for more intensification for the next 24 hours. Then it'll start weakening as it moves into cooler waters and stronger shear. Not really too much to go over, just the basics for you guys right here. Now we can go ahead and go into the model runs and talk about those. So here's what we have for you right here. Here is your European model with Gabrielle. Gabrielle is continuing to intensify. European has the system kind of moving out to sea right here, but you're definitely going to want to watch these two areas of interest right here because based on what I'm seeing, it doesn't look like both of them are going to develop. It looks like a scenario where one of them will develop and the other will kind of get absorbed or kind of not develop at all. And the European is favoring the second wave, actually, having the system organize and consolidate. It does have something trying to get its act together around the Bahamas right here, but it remains pretty weak as it heads potentially towards Florida. And keep in mind, this isn't. Keep in mind, by the time both of these do develop, the second wave doesn't start developing for another 4 days or so. But the first wave actually develops about, I'd say, 5 days out or so. So you're definitely going to see some more organization with that. But the European does want the system to really ramp up in intensity right here. But maybe because of upwelling right here, you're definitely going to see a little bit of weakening down the line as well, similar to what we saw before. And the European is actually forecasting this to potentially hit Canada right here as either a strong hurricane or an extratropical cyclone right there. So that's definitely something you're going to want to consider. Keep in mind, by the time it does do that, it's 15 days out. This is October 6th by the time we're talking about this. So that's definitely something you're going to want to keep in mind and consider. So that's what you have with the European run. Definitely favoring the second wave for tropical development. Let's go ahead and pop up the GFS for you guys right here. GFS is pretty interesting as well. The GFS actually wants, let me see where this originates actually first. Yeah, it's actually the first area of interest that actually gets its act together, organizes, intensifies pretty quickly as a hurricane, and potentially heads towards the outer banks of North Carolina and just stays offshore of the Delmarva Peninsula and impacts parts of the mid-Atlantic before moving out to sea right there. So that's definitely something to keep in mind and definitely something to consider. And the GFS does want another system to organize in the Caribbean, move into the Bahamas right here, and then start to kind of get pulled out. Keep in mind, this is 300 plus hours out by the time it heads towards that area, and it doesn't start developing or at least getting tagged for another week or so. So that's definitely something to watch, but right now, I'm not too concerned about it. I'm mainly concerned about Gabrielle and the two areas of interest. But the GFS is favoring the western one to develop, which I do think is kind of interesting. Maybe a slight merger between the two before it gets its act together fully and then impacts parts of the United States. So you're going to want to watch out for that as well. Here is your Canadian run. For you guys right here, the Canadian model has the system kind of, at least I believe it's the eastern system, the second area of interest, having them really starting to organize and actually get up to hurricane strength. A lot of these models, if they do develop the eastern one, do favor this becoming a hurricane, so that'll be definitely something interesting to watch as well. So that's your Canadian run right here, mainly staying out to sea, so we'll have to keep that in consideration. Last model we'll go ahead and show you is the Icon run. For you guys, the Icon has the system organizing and developing right here. Actually, the Icon is a little bit interesting right here, more so favoring the western development, I would say, but because of the close proximity of the two, Fujiwara effect takes place, and it kind of messes up the track for both of them, and that western system kind of just pulls the weaker energy from the eastern system and then starts to merge as its own low. So that's definitely something you're going to want to watch out for. So we are kind of have a little bit of a split in which one is more favored right now. What I would say is you need to watch out for two things. Number one, how much distance can these two pull apart from each other in the next 4 days? And number two, which area will have the better environment? We don't entirely know just yet because of Gabrielle, but we do want to pay attention to it because if the western one develops, we can go, okay, that has more of a threat to land. You're going to want to watch that more. But by and large, where we're at right here is kind of a situation you won't often see in the tropics, and it's definitely a scenario that we're going to want to watch out for and keep a close eye on here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go ahead and close the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. If you'd like to help out, hang out, or ask us some questions, feel free to join the Storms United Discord server. The link to that will be in the end screen. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.